Hi guys, welcome to Right from the Kickoff with your host Joe Wright, and always joining me, my football partner in crime, William Bayliss. How you doing, Will?
Oh, I'm very well, Joe. A lot of juicy games, obviously, as you all know, coming up now, isn't there? We're gonna lots of talking points, isn't there?
Yeah, well, of course, we've just had a massive weekend of football with obviously Champions League, Europa League being played last week as well. And then, of course, we've had some playoffs in the Championship and League One already been played. And, of course, the League Two playoff between Morecambe and Newport is currently going ahead as we speak, as we record this podcast. So we're going to start off with the Champions League between the two English sides of Man City and Chelsea. The result was a massive one. Chelsea won this one 1-0. And I just wanted to pass it over to Will. What did you think of the game overall? And kind of just talk us through the game and how you thought it went.
Well, it was interesting that lineup for Man City because they didn't actually start with any holding midfielders. They went very attacking, didn't they? And I think it was due to the fact that the two previous times that Man City have played Chelsea within the last few months, Chelsea have won both these games. So I think Pep tried to do something slightly different. I think you'd agree with that, wouldn't you, Joe? Because just like their definition of insanity is doing something over and over again and hoping for a different result. And I think that's what was in Pep's mind. He wanted to try and be more attacking, but by doing so,
Yeah,
you would agree he was more open at the back, wasn't it? And it actually paid dividends in the game.
Yeah, for Chelsea, it did for sure. I think what we saw in this particular game, which was very interesting, and I have to say the first half was very enthralling. Obviously, Chelsea got the goal through Kai Havertz from a Mason Mount pass on the 42nd minute. But to be honest, at that point, I said to you, didn't I? I thought that Chelsea, once they got the goal, I thought they could win it 2 or 3-0 because they were really on the front foot. Man City, not kind of used to what we're seeing from them. I just thought it was a very, very poor, average performance that Man City can produce. You know, I think Tuchel has obviously it's just got Pep's number, in my opinion. That's 3 times now in sort of the past, I would say 2 months, 3 months.
Yeah, it was,
They've played, and it's the same sort of scoreline. Obviously, 3 defeats now for Pep, and just obviously we'll talk about the Champions League and the implications that has on kind of next season and stuff. But just on next season, what kind of momentum does this give Chelsea now that they know that they've got Pep's number and they've got Man City's number? Does that give them a boost?
Yeah, completely. Like you can tell just through the few months that Tuchel has been there, he's just been so instrumental in the way they play. Like he's a master tactician. You can tell by the way they were holding their defense. By the way, was second to none. I always thought if Chelsea went 1-0 up, they could hold that lead because the defending and the positioning and everything was absolutely perfect. I have to say, Kante, man of the match. I think
world class,
unbelievable. He just knows where to position himself. Nick the ball where you thought he wouldn't even be possible, and he breaks up the play, and that was huge. I think if it wasn't for Kante, it might have been a different story, for me.
Yeah, but you know what though with Kante, obviously ex-Leicester player. I just feel privileged that we've seen him in a Leicester shirt. He's world class, probably the best CDM for a number of years. He's the best one in the world at the moment for me. He's just a class player, but it's the way he does what he does. He's always there. He intercepts the ball in the right situations. He doesn't just lunge in for tackles and try and win the ball back. It's the way he does it that's so effective. And you're right, he definitely was man of the match material for sure. There's even been talk of him potentially winning the Ballon d'Or.
I was about to touch on that, and I think the holding midfielder or CDM is such an underappreciated position, as we both know. Because they don't get the goals, they don't save the goals, but they do their job. And Kante is the best in the world in this position, second to none.
I've got to be honest with you, Will. It's actually my favourite position in terms of I know how vital it is for a good football. You have to have a good player in that position to succeed. I look at the kind of CDMs that we've had. And I'm going to mention three now for Leicester, just on, obviously because we're talking about N'Golo Kante. So we had Cambiasso, in the season of the Great Escape, top quality player, and I wanted him to stay. He only had one season because, of course, he was aging at that point, but top quality player. And you thought, who are we going to get in to replace him? Of course, then Leicester bring him over from France as a hidden
It was
gem.
unheard of, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, he was, and he's top quality. Just honestly one of the best we've had. And then of course we've now got Wilfred Ndidi, who I'd argue could possibly be in the top three CDMs in the Premier League. Maybe not top three, but he's definitely in with a shout. But yeah, I mean, it's what I'm trying to say is that position, especially for Chelsea and the way Tuchel plays, it's a vital position to have, and it's gone to show, with the way he sets up his teams. Man City couldn't get past N'Golo, and I think it just shows that really the way that Tuchel sets up really frustrates and stifles Pep's sides.
Yeah, literally. And one side I did see what baffled me is that Man City only had one shot on target in that first half, and that's just a credit because they had some decent chances, but the defence just stayed so strong, and Rudiger made a vital block against Foden, which was destined for the back of the net, wasn't it? Which would have made it 1-0 Man City, which would have made it a different game, obviously. But credit to Chelsea.
I've got a question for you now, just going on the Champions League. I'm going to give you the top 5 teams in the league, and I want you to give me an honest answer going from 1 to 5. And it's not going to be the question you perhaps think it's going to be, but if you're a fan of these football clubs, so we've got Man City, who obviously finished first in the Prem. You've got Man United, who will obviously go on to talk about how they did in the Europa League, but we both know. So just on the facts that you know. The third, Liverpool. Obviously Chelsea. And the reason I'm putting Leicester in there is because, of course, they went on to win an FA Cup, so they have won silverware this year. So out of those teams, 1 to 5, who would you say, as purely as a fan, who would you say he's done the best? Bearing in mind that Chelsea have won the Champions League as well now. So really, who would you think, as a fan of those clubs? So forget about the fact that Man City have won more. It's not necessarily about that. It's about, as a fan, would you be disappointed with the season because you've not won the Champions League? Do you see what I mean? So as a fan, where would you put these teams in terms of how the fan of those clubs are feeling at this point?
Well, I want to say Man City had quite a good season because I spoke to you earlier in the week. They still got to the final. That's the first time they've got to the final, and a lot of teams, for the first time they've reached the final, they don't often win it.
Yeah, well, I mean, just a stat for you, the last 8 teams that have appeared in the final for the first time, obviously including Man City now, haven't won the competition, which actually does show you how hard it is for the first timers to win it.
Yeah. So I would say Man City fans would be disappointed, or it's always harder ending the season on a sour note. So I'd say Man City are still the best side in the league, hence why they won the league. And I think if they had played any other team other than Chelsea, they probably would have won the Champions League, let's be real. But that's why Chelsea got to the final.
You're still putting, even though we were only talking about the kind of adulation / disappointment of fans, you're still putting Man City as first.
Just because they were still the best team over the course of the season.
Right, okay, fair enough. Who's second?
You're gonna have to put Chelsea second, aren't you? Because if you think about it, they won the Champions League. I mean, it was very tough for me to put them second because they won the Champions League, and they still made the top 4 as well. So
I think to be honest,
sorry, mate.
Sorry, to be honest, there's probably a few people that would argue, including myself, actually, that Chelsea should go first. For me, I think winning the Champions League I think the only reason I'm saying this is because I think it's a hard question to ask, and this is the reason I asked it, is because I think Chelsea, if they could swap the honours that they got, so the Champions League for the league title and the League Cup, I think they'd have taken it. But likewise, I think Man City would have snatched your hand off. If they could only have won the Champions League this season, that have said, "We'll take that."
Yeah,
you know
because
I mean?
that's the one they want. That's the one they want.
Yeah, that's the one they brought all the players in for. So I do think there is going to be a massive disappointment for Man City, even though they have won the League Cup and the league. Obviously,
Yeah.
they've done really well, but there is going to be disappointment at the Etihad for sure.
Yeah.
Right,
And
so
you have to feel sorry for Aguero as well, don't you?
Of course you do. So you put in Chelsea second, which I agree with. I think those are definitely the top two teams. Right, now we go further down to Man United, Liverpool, and of course, and again, a bit of a red hat. I will admit, obviously being biased, bringing Leicester into it because they've won the FA Cup. Where would you place those teams in terms of third to fifth? In terms of, we're talking about fan sort of being pleased with it rather than the expectations of fans before the season. So I'm not talking about the teams individually. I know the teams perhaps have done better, but if you're a fan, what are you've set out your season objectives. What are you kind of saying about these teams, these three teams? Who's the happier?
Before the season. Well, if you're judging back before the season, you wouldn't put Liverpool. But if you put during the season after all they've been through and like the last 10 games were like all basically wins for them. So that's why I want to put Liverpool third, because they.
Yeah, but that's not the question I asked. That's not the question I asked. I said before the season. That's
okay,
before the season. So
but,
forget about the form. They've done very well to get in the position they're in. That's not what I'm saying. Before the season, who's the happier?
Leicester, because last season they didn't reach the Champions League either, and they've won the FA Cup first time in history. And you're a Leicester fan, Joe. I think you're happier now. If you hadn't won the FA Cup, I would have said you would be right down there.
Yeah, but
I
wouldn't.
I'm going to put third.
For Leicester, yeah, bear in mind what we're saying there is now before the season kind of fan expectation, and I agree with that. I think fan expectation, if you'd have said FA Cup and fifth place again, we'd have taken that, and I think we'd have been the happier out of the clubs. So yeah, I'd agree with that.
Fourth, I'm going to put Liverpool because they still finished third, to be fair. So it's always harder to repeat it the season after. That's why teams hardly ever win the league back to back year. Like, look at the history; it's hardly ever happens. Like, it's so much harder. So that's why Liverpool are fourth. Fifth, I'm going to put Man U because they haven't won anything. Solskjaer still hasn't won a trophy from Manchester United, and they may finish second, but it's like, so what? Like, what I mean?
I think if you're a United fan, Champions League is kind of a must. So it's kind of just standard for United. If you don't get Champions League, there's some serious questions asked. So finishing second place is all right, but let's not forget they finished 14 points behind Man City, so they're way off the pace. And I think you're right. I think obviously we all thought leading on to this now. So that's it. So your 1 to 5 is Man City, Chelsea second, Leicester third, Liverpool fourth, because it was an underwhelming season for them, even though they had a massively great finish at the end of the season. But you would have said it's underwhelming if you'd have known that's where the table finishes. And then of course Man U, which I don't disagree with, to be honest. But moving on to that, then, so we've talked about the Champions League, and obviously Pep will be very, very disappointed. But just making a quick point about the Champions League, actually, I made this point here, and I think it's important we bring this up. Do you think, in a weird way, this will benefit Man City in keeping hold of Pep for a little while longer?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he would have left anyway, just because he's just signed he recently signed a new deal anyway. So I doubt he would have left, but I think it just helped because it would give him and Man City that extra motivation, because once he won that, where did he go from that? You see, he won everything with Bayern Munich, Barcelona. Then it'll be the clean sweep for Man City. So it was like, what's next? What other league? Maybe the Italian league now, whenever. Like, he wants to complete every single division, doesn't he?
Yeah,
in the top leagues in Europe. So yeah, I think it will help, and it will give extra motivation for next season. But next season it's going to be harder because Real Madrid and Barcelona had relatively poor seasons, hence why Atletico won the league. and I think they're going to come back stronger. A lot of teams are going to be a lot stronger next season, so it's going to be hard. I think if they were going to win it, it would have been this season, but you never know next season, especially if they sign like Haaland or something, or Harry Kane. That can make all the difference.
I think what we're forgetting though as well is Man City have the funds to completely strengthen again. So I don't think if I'm a Man City fan, as much as I'm disappointed, I won't be too worried. You'll be back there again at some point, and I'm sure you'll win it. But yeah, I think Anyway, moving on to the Europa League now. This game, if you don't mind me saying, well, I'm going to kind of just explain what happened. So this game, you're expecting Man U to kind of walk all over Villarreal, sorry. And it just didn't work out like that, did they? I mean, again, Villarreal kind of stifled Man United a little bit. They took the lead just before the half hour in the game. You really thought, right, United have got a real push on. Second half comes, Cavani gets kind of a lucky ricochet, finishes it off like the predator he is. You think, right now, Man U are going to, this is kind of going before the hour. Man U are going to kick on and win this. And it just kind of fizzled out for them in terms of an attacking intent. Extra time came, and let's be honest, Villarreal looked like they were going to score. They had more energy. The substitutions that were made by Unai Emery were better.
Man U didn't make any subs for the first 100 minutes, which is probably why. It was crazy.
Yeah, 109 minutes it took, and then the crazy thing is the substitution was Fred. So as much as I think he has improved as a player, he's a CDM. So what are you really getting out of that, especially when you're looking to gain more attacking impetus? But yeah, so the goal didn't come, and then of course for me, Villarreal are saying thank you very much, penalties. Now what followed was just an insane penalty shootout, wasn't it?
Oh, what? It's a cracking penalty. It's unbelievable.
Unbelievable. The 20 was it what? Let me think, guys. It was 21 penalties were scored by each team in a row before, obviously, unfortunately, De Gea steps up. The Villarreal goalkeeper has taken his penalty. Smashing penalty, by the way.
It's unbelievable.
Top corner, beautiful. Just powered it past De Gea. And of course, De Gea, when he steps up, he's nervous. You can tell he's nervous, and of course pushes it towards the corner, and the keeper makes a save. But I just couldn't believe what I was watching. I mean, the penalty shootout was more entertaining than the game in its entirety, I tell you.
Yeah, but, I mean De Gea should have made a few saves in that shootout. Let's be real. You can tell he's a keeper low on confidence, can't you?
Oh, massively so. And I think to be honest, it's because the tide's turning in the sense of, I think a lot of United fans now, if you said who's your number one, you'd go Henderson.
Yeah, 100%.
And I think De Gea knows that, and also I think his stock's fallen a bit. So I think that bigger teams aren't necessarily going to want to go in for him anymore because he's made a lot of errors, in terms of in the last couple of years really. So he is low on confidence, and he's before the penalty shootout, he'd not saved a penalty in the last 26 penalties he'd faced. Well, he's now conceded 11 penalties in a penalty shootout, so it's now 37 penalties that he's not saved in a row. And to kind of put the caveat on top, the cherry on top, he was the one that missed the penalty. I mean, he's not in their team to score penalties, so you can't blame him for the miss. But yeah, I think you're right. He's a keeper that's on confidence. But fair play to Villarreal. They came with a game plan and it worked to a T, didn't it?
Yeah, 100%. And I've got a question for you, Joe. If it was down to you, would Solskjaer still be in the job next season? And also, if the answer is yes, what do Manchester need to do in the summer to change that?
Honestly, I'm going to shock you with this one. No, I don't think he's the man to take them forward. I don't think they're going to win, what they want to win underneath him. You've got to remember as well, which always makes me laugh, is a lot of the pundits that are ex-United players are his mates.
We need to touch on that as well
because they back him a lot. I mean, obviously, I had my opinions on the pundits, which we'll go on to in a minute. But I think, I think Solskjaer is getting backed a lot by his mates, and he's doing all right. He's not. He's taken them. I say that though, but under Van Gaal, at least they won some trophies. You know, under Mourinho, they won the Europa League. You know, they won trophies. So realistically, have Man United improved under him? I'm not so sure. You know, and I honestly don't think he's the man to take them forward to where they want to be.
Yeah, I agree. He's had more than enough time there now.
Yeah, he has, and I just don't think he's got the tactical nous, even if he gets who he wants, to make the right decisions to make them into that, you know, top team. Who would I bring in for Ollie? I don't know, but I just don't think he's the man at this point. I think he'll get another season. I think he will get next season, or if things don't go well for him at the start of next season, I think he'll be in some trouble. But I think he's getting a lot of. He's kind of wearing out his kind of favourable, you know, status, if you like, as an ex-player and stuff. So I think.
Do you know who I would bring in?
Who?
Pochettino.
I mean, he's been linked with the Spurs job this week. I think that's a good shout. I think, to be honest, the other manager who potentially could do a decent job at United is, unfortunately to say this is a fault, but it's Brendan Rodgers. Whether or not he would be seen as a big enough name for United is another thing, but I think he could do a good job. There's a couple of other managers obviously around. You know, Zidane's left his job at Real Madrid.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah,
is he?
That's a name.
You know, is that a name? That's a big name. You get a big players. You know, you get a lot of players wanting to play for him. So again, there's a bit of juice there for United fans. But I just think that the overall disappointment, and we'll go on to this now, but the overall arrogance from the ex-United pundits, you know, ex-United players who are now pundits before the Villarreal game, I thought was just very, very disrespectful. I don't know what you thought about that. I know 100%. I know you're going to be biased, right? But I think there's an overall kind of just an arrogance about the way they were. They almost thought they were going to walk in and just take the trophy, and that didn't happen like that.
Yeah, 100%. Like, they didn't give Villarreal any chance at all. Like, Unai Emery, there's a reason why he's won 3 or 4 Europa Leagues now. He's just
four now.
Four. Exactly, four. Like, that's the competition they wanted. Maybe that's why we didn't do so well in league, finishing 7th, because they wanted to concentrate on Europa League. Because if you're in that position, it's your way into the Champions League, isn't it? Like, regardless how you're doing in a season, if you win the Europa League, you're in the Champions League, aren't you?
This is the thing now. You can have a go at them and go, oh, they only finished 7th in the league, but they're in the Champions League now, so it doesn't matter, does it?
Who cares? Yeah, literally.
Yeah, who cares? And you know, I think I just want to touch on one particular Manchester United legend. I think obviously Rio Ferdinand and Owen Hargreaves, they had the moments of sort of a little bit of arrogance, but I was like, you know what, fair enough. But Paul Scholes for me was just, not only was he disrespectful before the game, he was very disrespectful after the game, after they lost. And I just thought, you know what, you've got to be gracious in defeat. You know, we've all, as football fans, we all have to take the rough with the smooth. And I just thought when he said the statement of, well, I don't think Villarreal played very well, I thought, well, I don't understand what I'm hearing. You know,
I don't think Man U played very well.
Yeah, Villarreal came with a game plan and they executed it, in my opinion, to perfection. You know, they
won it, so they did,
and they won the trophy. So for me, for you know, obviously an ex-United legend like Paul Scholes to sit there and say, well, I don't think, you know, both teams didn't play very well, and I'm not really sure Villarreal deserved it. I'm like, well, no, they did, because they won it, and you know what, fair play to them. I just thought that really did rub me up the wrong way, because I'm nothing, you know, I'll be the first to admit, if Leicester had been played off the park, I'll sit there and say well done to the other team. And I think in sports that needs to be done. So it did rub me up the wrong way massively, and I was messaging you about it, I wasn't happy.
Yeah,
for sure.
I was the same as I was like, I midway through the game, or even at the start, I was like, I want Villarreal to win now, just because that amount of arrogance. That's the thing, is so much arrogance in the English media that, oh, the Premier League, always the best league. I mean, it is one of the best leagues in the world, but they discount other leagues so much. Like the Bundesliga is arguably on par with the Premier League in terms of talent and in terms of the style of play. That's the most like closest to it. The Spanish league is still really, really good as well. Like that's why you got
It's
Real
just
Madrid, Barcelona. Atletico Madrid won the league. Like it's not Real Madrid or Barcelona. It's not as distance away as people make out like it is. You know what I mean? Like we
yeah,
just discount other teams so much.
and I think we need to start having a bit more respect for other teams, and that's what it is. I think United, they hear what the media say over here, and they go, you know what, they're expecting us to walk in and take it. So of course, when your players know or think you're going to win it so easily, that's bound to rub off on your play as well. I think disrespectful to Villarreal is disrespectful to Spanish football and also other leagues. I mean, let's not forget. I mean, obviously they did get beat quite heavily by Arsenal in the end, but Sparta Prague, in the Europa League this season did quite well. Everyone was saying they're from a farmers league, and that might be the case. So there's not very many good teams, but they beat Leicester, they beat Rangers, and obviously got beat by Arsenal in the end. But they did take it a 1-1 tie back to their own ground, which then of course they got beat 5-0. But what I'm saying is we can't disrespect these teams like we're doing. It's not a nice, and this is why when you talk about the English game to a lot of foreign fans, they get annoyed about it, and you can see why, because the arrogance is unbelievable, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%. And oh, it makes my blood boil sometimes. It's like just have respect. If you have respect, people have respect for you. You know what I mean? It's so simple. Just
Yeah,
respect the opposition. And you
it's not
see that in the FA Cup. You know what I mean? Like the higher league teams play the lower league teams. They disrespect them, and they're like, "Oh, that whatever," and then they end up losing. You see that so many times with giant killings, and that's exactly the same reason why, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly it is, and yes, all right, Man U were probably favourites going into the final, but you've still got to go out and beat them, and they didn't do that. They didn't
Exactly.
do that,
And
because but Villarreal came with a game plan and executed it really well. So,
yeah, and congratulations to them. I mean, fair play. They deserve it.
and
So I
also just
think with that, oh, sorry, mate.
yeah, I just want to say a very quick one as well, and this one's going to hurt Arsenal fans, but I want to say a big congratulations to Unai Emery, fourth-time winner, obviously as we've mentioned before, but I think also the disrespect that he got to Arsenal from Arsenal fans and the English media, well done to you, almost give yourself a pat on the back, because you've kind of proven a few people wrong, I think, over
Yeah,
here, and fair play to you.
100%. And with that, should we move on to the playoffs, Joe?
Yeah, let's do it. If you don't mind, I'll take this one in terms of just talking through it a little bit. So we've got the Championship playoffs. Brentford, Swansea. I was actually quite disappointed with this game, and the reason being is Brentford just took control from the start to finish, and I'm really happy they got promoted. Actually, first time promotion to the Premier League. It's really nice to see a new name that we'll be talking about on next year's show as well, in terms of the season. I was very pleased for them. I mean, what was your takeaway from the game as a whole, Will?
Yeah, 100%. They took charge. Tony, as he often does, is like the record goal scorer for the championship now, scoring in the 10th minute. And then they made it 2-0 10 minutes later. And then Swansea didn't seem like a real threat in the first half. I was very disappointed with them. But in the second half, they did start to pick up. They had a few decent chances, which they should have taken away. And then Fulton, I feel sorry for him, but also it was so ridiculous. Like it was a clear red card. He stepped on the back of his ankle. It it was a red card in my eyes, but I
Yeah,
don't think he intended to put his foot there. You can tell by the way. I think he just overstepped slightly and just caught his
it's
ankle. But you
still,
can't be
it's
doing that, can you? It looked
yeah,
clumsy, if anything.
still a red card, and obviously it is what it is. But I think one thing for Brentford fans is, and this is a massive kind of caveat to winning the Championship playoff final, is not only you're going to be getting a lot of money through this, for players and get him to be more globally recognised, and obviously going to be on Sky Sports every week next year. It's not only that, but you're keeping arguably one of your best strikers for at least another year. I think that's a massive thing for Brentford. They will keep hold of Tony now, and he's a great striker, so I'm sure they'll be pleased with that.
Yeah, 100%. And I just want to touch on Brentford if I can, if you don't mind, Joe.
Yeah, no
Um,
worries.
so Brentford are a very special club in the way that they're run. Firstly, they don't have a academy system at all, which is unheard of for any professional teams nowadays. They actually have a top quality scouting system, and it's absolutely paying dividends for them. As you can see with Mopé, who went to Brighton, and players such as that, they buy the players really cheap. The scouts are unbelievable. They go to leagues which no one's would have think of looking at, and they identify the talent by using like scouting software and their performances and looking at what they're good at, and almost like the football manager rating systems where they identify the strengths and weaknesses and what will work, and it's been unbelievable for them. Like to pick out the players they have and to sell them on for such a big profit, which is a fantastic any business model. It's absolutely unbelievable. Like they've made profit for the last 5 years or something, which is unheard of again for any championship season. And now with this extra 150 million injection, what wonders are they going to do when they're in the Premier League? Like beware Premier League. That's all I can say.
Exactly, and you know what? It gives me, in terms of the way they play their football, I can't speak for the scouting system quite as eloquently as you did, Will. But in terms of the way they play the football, it does give you Leeds vibes, doesn't it? You know, it really does. We've spoke about it beforehand, but it does give you Leeds vibes, and I'm not fearing for them as I would do for either of the top two, to be honest. I think Brentford, I always said if they can get over that hurdle of actually getting promoted, I think they're going to be okay.
Because they play like a Premier League team, like the way they're passing, the way they're structure. I know their manager is. He just irritates me. That's just because he's so good. It's just so annoying, but he's so good.
I think just going on to the kind of scouting system, just to give you an idea, it's the fact that, you know, you've got last season, you've got your top scorer in Ollie Watkins, what a player, you know, and of course he then goes to Aston Villa, and you think for most clubs it takes another couple of years, maybe 2-3 years to get that prolific striker back. They've then gone and identified obviously Ivan Toney, and he's done basically the same job that Watkins has done in terms of the output of goals, even better, to be honest.
100% better. He's going to be some player in the Premier League.
Yeah, it will be. It will be. The only issue they've got is even if they finish kind of mid-table, if he does perform as well as he is doing in the Premier League, are they going to be able to keep hold of him? You know, that's the only worry I've got, because if he performs at the standard I think he can perform at, and this is why I was so annoyed that they got promoted. I'm really happy they did. Don't take anything away, but I know that Leicester were kind of looking at Ivan Toney, and you know, I know he's a great player, so you just have to look at the stats that he's putting out to know that he's a great player. Of course, we're looking for a replacement for Vardy, so I was kind of in the back of my mind, I was kind of hoping they wouldn't get promoted, because I thought we'd be going in for him, but of course now that's not going to happen. So yeah, I think they've got a hell of a player on their hands, and I think they'll do very well in the Prem next year, for sure.
Yeah, 100%. And fair play to him. And even if they did sell him, they'd probably get an even better player coming up anyway. Judging by the standards they're going at. Yeah. So it wouldn't be at that end all, you know what I mean?
Yeah, the only question I've got for you, Will, is their scouting system going to struggle a tad more? I'm not going to say a lot more, because I don't think it will that much, but will it have an effect because they are, you know, in the Premier League now, and they are, you know, kind of on a bit more of a global stage? I mean, the Championship's a great league, and it is still watched very highly, but the Premier League is a different kettle of fish. So do you think they're going to be able to find these kind of gems that they have been finding?
Yeah, 100%. It's going to open more league. We're going to have more funding because of it, so they can open up it even more, improve it even more on top of what they already have, and have a look at. I know this is Leicester, but have a look at how Leicester identified Kante. He was from a French second division team. Like no one had heard of him. You know what I mean? And if you can find it in like the Swedish league, this is where they've got a lot of the players from like different leagues around Europe, and it's just gonna. I have no doubt in their mind they're going to pick up a few more gems along the way. They have to.
Fair enough. I just wanted to ask you because, of course, you're the Championship expert, definitely more so than myself. Yeah. So moving on, Obviously, that was the playoff final. Brentford winning 2-0. Congratulations to them. Was really happy for them that they got promoted because, again, new team in the Premier League, good exposure for them. And it's also exciting when you go and play new teams that you've never played before, So I'm thinking from a Leicester point of view, looking forward to going to Brentford next year and trying to set down a challenge for them. So that'll be interesting. Right, moving on to the League One playoff final. Watched this yesterday. Did you watch it, Will?
Yeah, I did. And it was such a fascinating game. Obviously, Blackpool went 1-0 down after a great cross by Brennan Johnson. It was turned into their own net. And then they had a few more chances to extend the lead. Lincoln did, but they never really did. And then obviously Blackpool, as they often do, I think they've been in like 7 playoff finals now. And they've won 5 of them now. So obviously they have great pedigree in the playoffs, as Forest know all too well. Fair play to them after what a turbulent time they've been through. As you know, they've had so much financial issues, and the crook who used to run Blackpool, and they went all the way down to League Two, had points deductions and whatnot, and now they've made the way back up to the Championship, and it's been unbelievable. I know a few years ago, remember, Joe, they hardly had enough players to even start the season. They had to just sign loads of random free agents, didn't they? And what a story for the club.
They
what
did.
a story.
I mean, just going on to Blackpool, obviously they had the high point was in kind of the 2010-11 season, I believe, when they got promoted to the Prem. Kind of think about players like Charlie Adam, DJ Campbell, Marlon Harewood, those kind of players. Gary Taylor-Fletcher, if you remember him.
Of course.
All of those players, they had the real high point, and they were very unlucky not to survive that season, weren't they? They got 39 points and still got
It
relegated.
was so entertaining. We scored so many goals in Holloway. What a season that was.
So from that season onwards, Blackpool have always been a team that quite a few people, including myself, and I know you have, Will, that they've kind of kept an eye on. And obviously they've not, as you just said, Will, they've not had the greatest of fortunes in terms of owners and stuff, boycotting games for the fans. Rightly so, because there was some real kind of dodgy dealings going off at the club. So the fans kind of took a stand. They've been down to League Two, like you say, free agents, getting relegation after relegation, managing to stay up in the Football League, and then, of course, now going back to the Championship, where, as we know, anything can happen. Do you know what I mean? Anything can happen.
Yeah, have a look at Barnsley, who made the playoffs this season, unbelievably.
Once you're in there, anything can happen, and it'd be nice. I was really pleased for Blackpool. I mean, just to kind of shout out for Lincoln, obviously more local to where we are. Disappointing for them that they obviously couldn't get promoted yesterday, but let's not forget they're a very well-run club, and obviously Michael Appleton, obviously once of Oxford, he used to be the assistant manager at Leicester, and he's a very good manager. So I have no doubt that Lincoln is still going to be in very good hands next season. And
100%.
And he's a great manager for them. He's great at that level. I was very pleased when we signed him on as our assistant manager after Shakespeare and stuff like that. So very pleased, and unfortunate for them they couldn't get over the line. But when you think about they were in the kind of conference 4 years ago, they've done very, very well, haven't they, since then? So
they really have, and they've got some good young players, even though the main star, Brennan Johnson, obviously came back to Forest in the summer. And on a personal note, being a Forest fan, I can finally talk about Forest. So excited to see him next season. I think Chris Hughton's got some big plans for him. So I'm hoping he is a first team regular, because he's some player. He just caused havoc yesterday, I think.
Just quickly on Forest, since we're talking about kind of the playoffs and stuff. Obviously, I know with us being mainly Premier League, but how do you feel Forest season's gone? And are you more kind of confident that you'll do a lot better next season? Because it's been quite a poor season for Forest, but you're still in there. You're still in there, and you've got a good manager in Chris Hughton, I think. So I think you'll be looking towards the playoffs, maybe even better next season. What do you think?
I hope so. I've been, obviously, as you know, Forest have been in the Championship for the last 11 years now. We haven't gone up, we haven't gone down. We just the same hope every season, and I don't know. I've still got my season ticket for next season now. Just bought that. So hopefully Chris Hughton, I know he's got pedigree, can propel us up. Hopefully get some smart business in the summer.
Just
and go from
looking
there.
from an outsider, I think obviously we've spoke about it at great length, but Forest have not been the best run club over the last couple of seasons. But I have to say, in Chris Hughton, I really do feel like you've got a manager that can propel you perhaps close to the Premier League. And I think, you got to remember to the Forest fans, yes, all right, he plays a very defensive style of football, but when he first came in, you had a shocking start to the season, didn't you? And I mean shocking.
Yeah.
Before he
obviously
came
under
in.
Sabri Lamouchi, obviously we missed out on the playoffs on the last day. We should have never missed out on the playoffs.
Yeah.
But we missed out, and then we lost the first 5 matches in a row. So we said, see you later to Lamouchi, and Chris Hughton came in, and he started quite well, to be fair, and then it kind of fell away towards the end of the season. And I'm just hoping with what he's done at Brighton, obviously his first season at Brighton he didn't so well. His second season he made it to the playoffs, and the first season he got them promoted. So let's hope he can mirror that at Forest. I'll take anything at this point.
Just one final word on kind of all of this. So obviously we talked about the playoffs, and at the moment just want to make a point. Obviously said it earlier, but Morecambe are currently playing Newport in the League Two playoff final. If you want to get updates on that, I'm sure you'll find on our Instagram and obviously YouTube and stuff like that. We'll obviously update you on that. But just going on to that, manager-wise, do you feel like managers are given enough time? Because, like you said, it took Chris Hughton 3 seasons to get Brighton promoted, which he did so well. Are managers given enough time, especially in the Championship, to kind of develop their squads? Because it's very much chop and change now, isn't it? And obviously in the top 2 leagues, especially, it happens quite a lot. I think I'm hoping Chris Hughton gets the time that he deserves at Nottingham Forest for sure, because I think he is the man to take you up. To be honest, I really do like him.
Yeah, I mean that's literally the $1 million question, metaphorically and physically. I think managers aren't often given enough time, but things can go sour very quickly, can't they? Not just Forest fans, but football fans can be very fickle, and I think once the fans turn against you, I think is an uphill struggle, isn't it? As you know, as a Leicester fan, you've had your struggles. When the fans are against you, football fans, like I say, are very fickle, aren't they?
Yeah, of course they are, and I think obviously there are a lot of big clubs down in the Championship and League One and so forth. But I think Forest, with the pedigree that they've got with their history and stuff, you can understand the frustration from the fans. Because, I mean, like you say, you've been in the Championship now for 11 years. And, I mean, that was after promotion from League One. So you've not had the best of times, really, since kind of like the late 90s, really, where you were back in the Premier League. But I think you got relegated in 99, didn't you? And you've not been back since. So it's obviously not been the easiest of kind of 20 years or so for Forest, but I'm confident you can get back in. And to be honest, to have East Midlands rival back in the Premier League, it'd be nice too as well. And Forest are definitely a club that I keep a close eye on. Anyway, moving on, we're going to put a line under that because we have run over slightly, as we always do. We're going to be doing another podcast this week because the announcement to cut the 33 provincial squad for England is being cut tomorrow to 26. I think we're going to bring another podcast around Wednesday sort of time. Obviously, build up for the Euros, talking about England's chances once we get that 26 provincial squad. How are you feeling about the Euros, Will? I know we keep going on about it.
Oh, I'm excited for it. Obviously, we're touching it more in a few days, but I am really looking forward to it. Obviously, it wasn't on last year, so it's just whetting the appetite even more for it, hasn't it? And exciting times coming up.
100%. I think we have got some very, very good players. I mean, you got to remember that 7 players in the Champions League final that were on the field were English. So it's a good, it's a real bright time to be an England fan, and I want to go into this competition positive that we can maybe even go on and win it. Why not?
You have
Uh,
to. You have to have
let's
confidence.
every time since I've been born, really, kind of hoping England will go on and win. Probably not because it's England, but I want to go in there with a bit of confidence and hopefully we can bring it home.
Yeah, 100%. And let's go for it. You have to.
Let's
Obviously,
go
we'll
for it.
touch on more in a few days' time. But yeah, I think make sure you like the video, subscribe, share it with your friends, like us on Instagram and on Facebook. And yeah, can't wait for the Euros, Joe?
And don't forget to join us and our special guest on Wednesday, Peter Crouch, as we talk about the Euros. So yeah.
The Big P. Looking forward to seeing the Big P in action once again.
Definitely. All right then, guys. Speak to you later, and please comment your thoughts and opinions on our podcast. As always, we love to get your feedback. So, cheers, guys.
See you later.